Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Spock a Week and the final episode of Season 2. And as promised, we have with us a very special guest, the ultimate doctor, better than Robert Picardo. It is the very same...
Say that again. Say that again. Just keep saying that over and over again.
The
ultimate doctor.
The ultimate
Take that,
doctor.
Picardo.
And
take that, Gates McFadden.
Welcome, John Billingsley, to Spock the Week. We have our first Star Trek alumni on Spock the Week. And I'm sorry to say, John, that your career has finally ended. You've made it on Spock the Week. It does not go well after this, I'm afraid.
Oh, that's all right. I was on the show that killed the franchise, for God's sake. I don't expect much from myself. It's a low bar, and I barely climb over it.
Well, you'll not be disappointed.
I always say that in hopes of getting people all riled up. Everybody jumps to the show's defense. No, it didn't come. No, it was wonderful. No. It's like, yeah. Where were you when we needed you? Huh? I see a lot online of people saying, I turned off the show after about 3 episodes and hated it. Now that I'm watching it in syndication, I'm really liking it. It's like, yeah, but I was getting paid then. I needed you to watch it then.
Well, let's put it this way. I think you and Gregor are going to get on swimmingly in this conversation because...
Is he another one who ditched the show and he's come crawling back on his belly trying to beg forgiveness?
Okay, I did not ditch it after 3 episodes. I waited till the end of season 2.
Oh, the end of season 2. Okay. I didn't even make it to the end of season 2. It was a hologram acting all the way through season 3 and 4.
I've got mitigating circumstances because it was on Channel 4 here for the first 2 seasons, and then Rupert Murdoch bought it for his Sky channel, and I refused to give Beelzebub money.
I understand that. I truly, actually, in all candor, as an actor, we get auditions for Fox shows, and believe me, it is like, oh, God almighty, Joseph Goebbels has invited me to appear on his variety hour. What do I say? Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. The problem is you cannot move through this world unsullied. Every step you take, you attract mud, filth, and slime in this fallen.
And I think it's a bit more sort of prevalent now. We've got social media and everything like that, sort of following everybody around, with the...
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Do you participate in social media? If you consider that social media and the rise of social media has cast a pall over the world for various reasons, well, here we all are. You follow the philosopher Pete Singer, who I sort of half admire and half want to punch in the nose. Basically, in essence, says something to the effect of follow your moral imperatives to their logical conclusion, and you should give almost every penny you make away to the poor. And it's like, but I want coffee and scones, and it's like, damn you, Pete Singer.
Yeah, I hate to get all serious so soon.
How I haven't even let you ask a single question yet? This is my goal in interviews, is to actually make it impossible for the interviewer to ever actually ask a question.
This is going to be great for the next hour then. John and I just going
definitely
at each other trying to...
I interrupted your introduction. You didn't get to finish. You didn't get to say all the things you wanted to say.
Well, okay, I'm going to come back to your Pete Singer thing, and obviously with the, I don't want to get too serious, but with
heavens forfend,
with everything that's going on in the last 12 months, I seen a statistic the other day that Jeff Bezos could actually pay every single one of his 1 million employees $105,000, and he would still have the same amount of money that he had before the lockdown.
Now, it's interesting that his ex-wife has actually come out and very publicly said, I am going to give all my money away. Mm-hmm. She has subsequently married a public school teacher. Well, actually, she's a private school teacher, but he's still a teacher. And they are essentially invested in this activity now, figuring out how to divest themselves of the entire function. Mm-hmm. And there's a big movement afoot. Gates participates in it. That fellow, the guy who's made all of his money in investing in what's his name?
Warren Buffett.
Warren Buffett. Yeah, Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett is into that. I mean, huzzah for those guys. Yeah. I'm not going to give all my money away. I'm going to actually, yeah, I'm taking it with me when I fucking go. I'm taking
Yeah.
it into the coffin with me in gold doubloons.
Well,
so where are you going to be buried? Just so we know for future.
Yeah. I was thinking of Scotland, but that's out now. That's off the list. I'm going to make it hard for you guys. You're going to have to track me the fuck down.
So, Gregor mentioned just about that you'd met in, was it 2017? Did you say 2017? Yeah. In Quark's Bar in Las Vegas at the convention.
It was on the Sunday when the convention's winding down, John, and it was August 2017. And my partner Sarah and I, we were just standing in Quark's Bar having a beer, and you came over and joined us for a beer. And it was the least Star Trek conversation of the weekend. We talked about the Grenfell fire. We talked about some of the stuff that you were doing now, and then we finished off by saying we were going to Death Valley the next day, and you said, "Are you guys fucking crazy? Oh, Death Valley in August?"
That sounds like me. So I just came over. I just crashed your conversation.
We didn't even want you to come over.
You didn't even want me there. I know you were like putting up. I know you were trying to ignore me. I vaguely remember that. I made you buy me drinks, didn't I? Insisted.
Yeah.
It's good. It's good to be on Star Trek, man. You can get away with all sorts of shit you could never get away with in real life. Everybody in this bar is buying me a drink. You understand?
You know, the daft thing is that people actually do that. I mean, honestly, if somebody like yourself,
and I'm a minor, vaguely recognizable celebrity, you can imagine what like Paul Newman could have gotten away with.
Well, I tell you, another of my celebrity beer stories from that convention was in the Masquerade Bar. Around about 2:30 in the morning, Von Armstrong came over.
Oh, you don't say no more. Say no more.
I think he had a couple of half pints of beer at this point.
Possible.
As I had, and I'm standing with two of my friends from Glasgow, the two Nicholas that we call them, and he says, Vaughan says, "Where are you guys from?" And we said, "Scotland." And he went, "I'm Scottish," in an American accent, as a lot of Americans want to reclaim their heritage. And I was like, just because your name's Armstrong doesn't make you fucking Scottish. Then we had a beer. He took it well, you know. So.
Oh well, you know. Did he have symbols attached to his kneecaps? You know, when he got on Star Trek, he immediately got the idea. I mean, he had been a guest star in a number of different shows, playing a number of different species. I think he may actually have played more species than any other Star Trek actor. But when he got on Enterprise, he thought, how can I parlay this into an extra nickel? So he created the Von Armstrong one-man band. This then led eventually to the Star Trek band that he formed. But when I first saw him in his initial incarnation as a one-man show, he had like a pair of cymbals glued to his kneecaps, and he had like he managed to figure out how to turn his whole body into a musical instrument. It was a rather discordant performance, but you admired the moxie, is what I would say. Like any good actor, it's like, how can I monetize this?
I mean, do Connor and Dominic, do they monetize the Enterprise karaoke in Vegas?
Oh my God, no, not the karaoke per se, but they certainly, I'm not going to make fun of Dominic and Connor because it's going to come back at me.
Oh, we found it. We found
the weak spot. We found the weak spot.
I've learned my lesson. I am not going to say that they would go to the opening of an envelope if there was a nickel involved. I am not going to say that. That is going to get me in deep shit. Whereas I, of course, am pure as a driven snow. I do not. I'm not like you guys aren't paying me for this. Are you paying me for it?
Are we paying him for it?
We'll do a GoFundMe page. There we go.
Yeah. No. I love those boys. Actually, that's one of the great. I really miss getting to go to the conventions. I mean, of course, we all have things we miss about this horrible episode in our history. But for me, I love to travel, and getting all of our trips and various expeditions knocked out from under us, and God knows how long it's going to be till we're going to be able to travel the world again. It's a loss.
When we had our conversation in Quark's Bar, one of the things that you did say to me, and trust me, I hadn't done this already, but you said, please don't judge America on Vegas.
Oh, but don't judge America on America. If it comes to that, it's like, there are 9 decent people who live here. I know 6 of them. I've not met the other 3, but we are a nation of lunatics right now. My God.
Oh,
Hey, we elected Joe. Good old Joe.
Honestly, I mean, I'm not very a political person, but just watching everything that's been going off, it's like, when I was growing up, I was watching films like Smokey and the Bandit and Convoy and programs like Little House on the Prairie and a few other, like I say, nondescript programs and stuff like that, and I grew up with this image of America that I still hold dear. And watching everything that's been going off over the last 12 months, I'm like, what are you doing? You're ruining the painting. You're ruining the image. What's going on?
Well, it's always been there, and I'm not going to America bash. I mean, there's much that is a wonderful book. I'm extremely political in point of fact, but we don't have to go there. But there's a wonderful book that came out recently by a woman named Jill Lepore called These Truths. Terrific staff writer for the New Yorker, and it's a 800-page narrative history of America, and I think it does a great job capturing the dichotomies and the contradictions. I mean, it is inarguably true that the words we created and the values we espouse had tremendous meaningfulness for the world, and I honor that. Our failure to live up to those values however, and the hypocrisy with which we trumpet them while simultaneously invalidating them on the ground really makes you shake your head. I mean, it's not just what's happened in the last year or 4 years. It's what's been happening arguably ever since the passage of the Civil Rights Act and, since 1619 in America. I mean, racism is America's stain. Of course, it's kind of Britain's stain too, so,
I think it's a stain on the humanity. Let's be honest with you.
Yeah, it is. No, it is.
What have we ever done? What have we ever done? India and all that stuff. That was fine. South Africa, it was fine.
Yeah. No, I know. But
hey,
you got rid of slavery before we did. I mean,
Well, yeah.
You kind of didn't really get rid of colonialism for a long time. But
I don't know about getting rid of slavery, because every time I go to work, it feels like I'm.
Well, what do you do?
I'm a bus driver, of all glamorous things. He's a taxman.
How did you guys come together? I'm going to ask you questions now. How did this bromance start?
Well, I'll field this one. This one literally came through Star Trek. I discovered the Starfleet International chapter, the USS Alba, which I duly became a member of, and like I say, we went for the first. We obviously pre-lockdown, we'd go out for meetings, go to the pub, have meals, watch parties, stuff like that. And the first night out I went on, there was me, the commanding officer of the chapter, Gregor and Sarah, and I think a couple of other people that I can't remember off the top of my head who were there. And it just started from there. And it all started off because I went to the bathroom and I left my phone on the table. When I came back to the table and picked up my phone, there was about 20 photographs of Gregor, Sarah, all posing and doing all sorts of funny, as many pictures as they can, because even if your phone's locked, you can still open up the camera and take a few snaps and whatnot. So that's what they did, and it just started from there. And his partner Sarah is a rugby league fan and a Wigan rugby team fan. I'm a arch rival fan, the Castleford Tigers.
The Castleford Tigers.
So that sort of the banter about that started getting on, and that's pretty much. Gregor's probably going to tell a different story, but
honestly, it's the War of the Roses. Sarah's from Lancashire and JJ's from Yorkshire. It's the War of the Roses whenever they start talking about the rugby.
Ah.
Yeah.
Now, and where are you guys actually situated geographically? You live in the same city?
Yes.
Now?
Yeah, we're both in Edinburgh. Literally less than 3 miles apart.
Yeah, it's like 2 to 3 miles away.
I've been to Edinburgh on several occasions.
It's a lovely
And
place.
it's a lovely place. My wife played the Fringe Festival many years ago.
Cool. Well, if you ever make it back, we'll take you for a beer in some of the proper pubs.
You are on. I always like to go with the locals and find out where the disreputable parts of town are.
We'll have to take him to the pubic triangle then.
Oh yeah, the
excellent. I love it already. I'm not gonna share that part with the missus. But did you meet the Mrs. Gregor when I accosted you in the bar and tried to get you to buy us liquor?
No, you were just on your own.
That's why I did it.
I say on your own. Robert Duncan McNeil, Bobby had been there as well.
Is he hanging on my arm the way he does sometimes?
He was. Yeah. So, but yeah. So I mean, JJ was talking about some of the TV shows that shaped America for him. So here's a list of some of the TV shows that I watched. You know, because obviously JJ wasn't in. You weren't in any of the shows that I'm aware of that JJ watched, but here's some of the shows that I watched. NYPD Blue, The X-Files, The West Wing, Star Trek Enterprise, Stargate SG-1, Prison Break, The Closer.
What a coincidence that I haven't.
NCIS, True Blood, 24, The Mentalist, Suits. Did you meet Megan, by the way?
Oh, he went there.
No, I did. I crossed her path.
He went
in the makeup trailer, but we did not have scenes together. And other than kind of like waving at her, we did not have a conversation.
Yeah, Turn, Washington Spies. I watched that fairly recently. Yes. Twin Peaks, Lucifer, and The Orville. And funnily enough, you were in all those shows.
I was in all the shows, and many that are too embarrassing to even mention that fortunately are not appearing on your list, and many that nobody's ever heard of because they never advanced beyond the pilot stage.
Well, I'll tell you what though, John, there are some truly landmark shows in that list. You know, obviously Enterprise, which is probably
I'm not sure I put that on the landmark list.
It's probably more popular now than it ever was.
It's interesting how people have kind of rediscovered it. I mean, I think when it came on, there was Star Trek fatigue. You know, there had not been a break since Next Generation appeared, and in a couple of seasons there were even overlaps when two Star Trek shows were on at the same time. And I know Rick and Brannon. I mean, they were running on fumes in all candor by the time we came on the air. They had really. They deserved a break, and they just weren't given a break. So they were kind of having to rush our show into production. And I think if they just had a little more prep time, a little time to kind of cogitate where they wanted to go with the show, you know, the temporal time war, I think, was an unfortunate choice for kicking us off. And I think that was a little bit, I don't want to say foisted upon them by the network, but they didn't have as much freedom as I think they deserved to have. And they certainly didn't have the prep time they deserved. But now, with the passage of time, people can appreciate the things that were okay about the show, I think.
Well, I mean, my opinion, if I can be candid with you, is that the worst thing
I love it.
The worst thing I can say about the first two seasons is they were a little bit dull at times. Yeah. You know, we'd had the Dominion War, we'd had the Borg invasion, we'd had all that, and then suddenly we had trade negotiations with cargo ships.
No, I couldn't agree more, especially given the nature of the fact, this is a story I tell all the time, so, you know, these are all kind of crusty old yarns, but there was an episode early on when one of the crew members transports down, and we were supposedly afraid of a transporter, and he transports back up, and in the first draft, I had a little in with the hair trailer. They would slip me the first drafts of the scripts, so I could kind of get a sense of how much I was going to be in the next episode, because I would still troll for work outside of the show if I wasn't going to be used much. And in the first draft, the crewman who transports back up to the ship, it's like his ass is where his head should be. It's like, oh my God, terrifying. By the time we get the finished script, you know, after it's gone through multiple passes, he transports back up to the ship, and he's got like a little twig sticking out of his ear. All I have to do is cut it with a pair of fucking pruning shears. And I thought that was really representative of where the combination of the network, and I don't know how much of it was Rick and Brannon, but the powers that be kind of took the edge off what should have been, to me, the signature of that show, which is it should have been fucking scary.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're the first goddamn ship in space. We don't trust the equipment. We don't trust the transporter. We've never done this before. To me, it should have been like they should have broken the mold of Star Trek. Overlapping dialogue, arguments, confusion, anger, and we still triumph, you know? You still have, like, you rise above it. All shows have to kind of show the heroes being heroic, but I think they really missed the boat at allowing it to be scary. You know?
I agree. I agree with you.
Yeah.
I mean, I've always said, and when I've spoken about Enterprise to other Star Trek fans, one of the things I've always said is that sequence of stories in season 4 that begins, I mentioned it already, but begins with the assassination of Admiral Forrest. And it's this complex relationship that develops between the Vulcans and Starfleet, or Earth at the time. I thought that a storyline like that in the first season would have kicked it off and set it up much better, I think, going forward, because I never quite bought the distrust of the Vulcans in the first couple of seasons.
Yeah, I mean, I sometimes kind of devolve into critiquing the show to probably, to a too big an extent. I mean, there were things that worked, there were things that didn't work. It was so long ago for me. I mean, 20 years ago, and I haven't watched it in a long, long time. So I draw on very old memories. I don't know if I went back and watched it now, whether I would appreciate it now or not. I've seen bits and pieces, fragments, sometimes just channel surfing. And sometimes it catches me and I watch a little bit. And sometimes I got to say, I'm with you. It's like, this is dull. This is boring. Or it's like, I've seen this 1,000 times and I pass. It was hit or miss, a lot of television can be hit or miss, making 22 or 26 episodes a season. I mean, I think one of the things that streaming does, one of the things that cable does, is they have a pretty, and that you guys frankly do much better than we do. You have a smaller, shorter season, and each episode really packs a wallop, and it's serialized. So there's a sense of progression and growth. Old school American television, like Bonanza, it's like, haven't I seen this episode of Bonanza about 18 times already? Well, yeah, because they make 30 a year and it's been on for 10 fucking years. How many stories can you tell? I think Star Trek suffered from that by the time, we came along.
It's like,
I went into the writer's room once, unlike Bob Picardo, who was like, he'd wake up with stories to pitch. I'm an opera singer. I was like, just give me the script. Give me the script. I'll do it.
Like, what am I doing?
What am I doing? But I did try once. I went in with some friends because they were writers and they wanted to pitch. And I said, well, I'll walk you in. We'll come up with some ideas. And we walked in and we started to pitch. And Brannon, he was great. He was nice enough to take the meeting. He pointed to this, whiteboard, and it said something like crusty old moldies or whatever the fuck it was. And it was basically all the ideas. It's like everybody tries to pitch. And it seemed like there were hundreds of them. And you realize that after umpteen years of Star Trek, how hard it was to come up with a new idea.
I mean, I was going to ask you about writing, because I've heard you talk about your love of writing on other podcasts, which are available in various channels. I mean, what was your relationship like with the writers? Because there was some real talent on there. You had Brannon and you had Manny came on board.
Manny came late. I mean, in a way, that was sort of an instance where the ship had sailed. By the time Manny joined us in season 3, our ratings had plummeted. The network itself, UPN, was hanging on by its fingernails. We were only given a 3rd and a 4th season because they weren't quite ready to fold the entire network tent, and the network needed something. And no writers, producers wanted to go pitch for UPN. Who wants to sell a show to a network that you don't think is going to survive? So they desperately needed some content. So perversely, although we only lasted 4 seasons, in any other situation, we probably would have been canceled after 2. Manny joined us. He loved Star Trek. He was a big fan of the original series. They had a very specific dictate from on high to juice up season 3, to make it more dramatic. This was post 9/11, obviously. Personally, I found certain episodes that season to be distasteful. I thought they fed into a certain kind of a conservative triumphalism that I think is problematic about America. There were also some very good standalone episodes, and there's no doubt to me that Manny, I think, was coming at it from a perspective that juiced us, brought a lot of freshness to it. Some of the best episodes we did that year, I thought, Similitude. I'm not sure he wrote that, but I think he played a significant role in helping to
That's a tough episode to watch.
Yeah, and that's, to my mind, that's the best episode we did. That's always the one I point to. I think, it had all the things that make Star Trek effective. It dealt with a topical issue that was controversial. It found a way to get every single character in the show invested emotionally in how things play out through the lens of the actions, surrounding this controversy. Should we do this? Should we not do this? Now that we've done this, what do we do next? Is this right? Is this wrong? Hugh the Borg, I think, is another classic episode that kind of deals with some of the similar, not similar themes, but that pays off in a similar way.
Yeah,
you got to have, topical is great, but you've got to make sure it plays through the lens of how the characters are genuinely, gripped by the incident. Okay. And Manny, the fourth season, by then it was clear, at least it was clear to those of us who, had our eyes wide open, that this is it. We weren't going to go beyond this. I thought that gave Manny a lot of freedom to kind of, write Valentine episodes. It's like, well, how come the Klingons don't look the same way? Da, 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 da.
Episodes.
He wrote episodes that were sort of, rooted in his deep affection for the original series. Mm. If the show had survived, I think, there would have been another turn. I don't know, where we would have gone, but there had been talk about Jeff becoming a regular, the Andorian. There was talk about a Romulan war. I think it might have become a little more, a little darker again. I don't know.
Okay. I would love season 3 and 4. Can I give you a bit of a memory test?
By all means.
Okay.
But yes, I am wearing pants.
Okay. Cue the music.
Does the Association of Cartographers for Social Justice mean anything to you?
Sure, of course it does. Good old West Wing. Yes, and the Peters projection map, I think it's called.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Is basically a version of the map that is designed to actually show the real sizes of the countries, and it according to the folks behind this map, kind of combats our the inherent racism that exists. When you look at the regular map, Africa, for instance, is infinitely smaller than it really is. A map that shows Africa in true proportion to other countries, to Europe, for instance, would heighten our understanding of the importance of Africa. That's why we didn't do it that way. That's, to a certain extent, what the Peters projection map is arguing.
I mean, I love the West Wing, and
I did too.
We've mentioned writers, and
Sorkin.
Sorkin is just a writing god, in my opinion. I mean, what was it like being on the show? I mean, you had a great part in that episode.
I did not meet him, so I couldn't speak to him particularly. I was on a plane with him some months back. He got the VIP treatment, man. They drove up and and they muscled him onto the plane. It's like, ooh. I lobbed peanuts at him from the back. It was like, fuck you, Aaron Sorkin. First class bastard. There are a number of writers like this, and I do appreciate this. David Kelly, Aaron Sorkin. There are a few others for whom do not change a syllable, which can be a challenge for an actor, particularly if they do any kind of rewrites on the day or the day before. You mentioned NYPD Blue. David Milch is another one who, a terrific writer, but he would rewrite the entire script sometimes. And Jimmy Smits eventually quit the show because he was sick of being handed new pages that morning, as if he could somehow take these, fairly elaborate monologues and just kind of, rip them out of his ass. Deadwood, another example of of David Milch practically killing his actors. With these incredible monologues that he'd kind of hand you and say, yeah, so camera rolls in about 15 minutes. It's like, I don't have that kind of memory. James Woods supposedly just has to look at the script and he has a photographic memory.
Really?
So yeah.
I liked James Woods as an actor. At one point, if James Woods was in it, I would watch it. I'm less enthusiastic.
Yes, less enamored of him as a human being.
No.
Yes. I know. I've insulted James Woods before, and unfortunately, nobody knows who the fuck I am, so it doesn't come back and bite me in the ass.
Not to his face though, because that'd be quite
No,
terrifying.
I try not to. I'm far too frail to insult anybody to his face. Good God forbid. I'm frail and I'm slow, which is a horrible combination. It's like I'm too weak to fight and I'm too slow to run. So butter wouldn't melt in my mouth when I'm meeting you in person.
I mean,